Hello, friends, and welcome to the City of the Immaculata, a place where we discuss history and theology, principally through the lens of a Franciscan theological outlook. This is a new burgeoning channel, and I ask that you please like and subscribe, and that if you find any of this material helpful, that maybe you consider sharing it with others. Today, we're going to be looking at what is it to be fitting. So, what do Catholics mean when we say that something was fitting? To give you some context, as a convert, when I was studying various Catholic theological propositions, I would sometimes come across this phrase of, it was fitting. And as if I would press the people that were saying it, I would usually get a non-answer from them. And I always thought of it as something of a cop-out, an excuse to just tack on, it is fitting for something that we actually don't have a logical answer for. As if, oh, well, we do that because, hey, it's fitting, right? That's, you just throw fitting at it and therefore it sticks. And I've seen some Catholics do that. I'm not going to pick on anyone. It's usually in the apologetics realm, where there's not a lot of thought given to where the concept itself actually comes from. But there is a logical framework that I was never aware of that the whole idea is deduced from. And that is the Potuit, the Decuit, the ergo fecit. God could do it. It is fitting that he do it. Therefore, he did it. And let's break that down. So for the Potuit, God could do it. What we're asking here is it something that God could do? So you might be asking, can't God do anything that he wants? Well, unless you're a strict voluntarist, the general answer to that would be no, God couldn't. He won't do anything that is contrary to his nature. We can say that depending on whatever degree of voluntarism you may or may not subscribe to. At the very least, as Christians, we would say God wouldn't do anything that is contrary to his nature. So when we're dealing with the poacher, we're dealing with the realm of mere possibility. Could God do it? The Decuit is, it is fitting that God do it. Now, what kind of things would we say that God would do that would be fitting? Well, it would likely be ordered. It would be rational. It would be loving. All of these things are attributes of God, so therefore, if God would do it, it would be fitting if they fell under, say, one of these categories, one of these attributes. Does the thing that we're talking about qualify? Well, if it does, then it would be fitting. So this is where the Decuit comes in. Ergo fecit, therefore he did it. So you can think of it as if A and B, then C. This is the thing that actually is. And why is it is? Well, because A and B. Because God could do it, because it would be fitting that God do it, therefore God did it. So some important notes. The very first thing to keep in mind is that this is not a matter of necessity. None of the scholastics that use this formula would ever say it has to be, that it would be necessary, right? That God could do it, that it would be fitting that he do it, therefore he has to do it. That's not what this is getting at. And they wouldn't even say that it proves the point that they're arguing. It's just a logical syllogism. It's a premise that they're using to argue. The point of fittingness, the point of the fittingness of something is about how God orders and wills things. So when trying to determine the Decuit, the fittingness in speculative theology, this is the other thing to keep in mind. It is helpful to apply a formula of determining the Potuit and the fecit. So the way that I'm doing it here, and this is not anything I've gotten from anywhere else, it's just sort of helpful in my mind, is I think about it in terms of if A and B, then C, right? If the Potuit, if he could do it, if it is fitting that he would do it, therefore he did it. Well, if I'm trying to figure out if something is fitting, then one way to think about it is, and I flipped the quote unquote equation around, though it's really not an equation, it's just sort of a visual to help me out. But you would think of the Potuit and the fecit how they sort of push pull between the two of those. And I've heard a friar one time say that the Decuit is similar to like tuning a guitar string, where the perfect pitch that we're looking for and determining if something is fitting is that perfect balance between the Potuit and the Facet. So let's see what that may look like. Question: did God create my wife? Well, we could say, could God create my wife? The answer to that would be yes. Is it fitting that God create my wife? The answer would be yes. Therefore, God created my wife. Now, you might be thinking, how do I know it is fitting that God create my wife? Well, think of that visual, right? If we're looking at God could do it, the realm of possibility, but also the fact that God did do it, right? I can see my wife. She's there. I know she exists. So I could say there's a perfect balance between the fact that God could do it, that he did do it. So therefore, I would say it is fitting that God would do it. Another example. Did God create unicorns? Well, could God create unicorns? And the answer would be yes. Is it fitting that God create unicorns? Well, no. Therefore, he didn't create unicorns. Again, you might be saying, how do I know it's not fitting that God create unicorns? Well, we already know in the realm of possibilities, it's not that outlandish to think that God could do it. It's not anything special about a unicorn except that it's magical and has a horn. So in the realm of possibilities, in the Potuit, God could do it. But it doesn't seem that he did create any unicorns, as far as we can tell. So the Facet, that push-pull between he could do it and did he do it, well, it doesn't seem that he did do it, which would be a strong indicator that therefore it is not fitting that he would do it. So as I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking, well, how do I apply this to various things? Well, one thing that I would just point out here is just to give you an example maybe of a challenge is it just a question, a moral question like this? Is it fitting that I commit a mortal sin? So the Potuit, in theory, God could, in some kind of voluntarist theory, will or allow me to commit a mortal sin. Um, but in the realm of the he did do it, God willing, he didn't allow me, right? But let's say I make it to the end and he didn't allow me. So therefore, determining the Decuit there, that push-pull between the Potuit and the Facet, it would seem if I made it to the end, but I did not commit a mortal sin, that it would seem that it was fitting that I did not commit a mortal sin. Okay? But if I did not commit a mortal sin, does this mean it was fitting? Well, again, remember, well, excuse me, if I did commit a mortal sin, does it mean that it was fitting? So remember the criteria that we're using, right? Things like ordered, rational, loving. The me committing a mortal sin would not be ordered, it would not be rational, and it would not be loving. So it really wouldn't apply here that we would say that it would be fitting of God to allow me to commit a mortal sin. So I don't think something like this would apply to that scenario. Another challenge when determining the Facet is so in the examples that I used of my wife or the unicorn, when you have something clear and concrete, like, I could say my wife, she is there, therefore, as far as the Facet goes, right, therefore he did, that balance between, could he do it and he did it, that's a pretty clear string to be tuned right there to find that therefore it is fitting, right? But something that's not so clear, maybe there are unicorns out there, and I don't know. So if there were and they're around the corner and I didn't see them, if there's some reality that's the Facet exists, but it's a little bit harder to determine, well, that's where this argument, this line of reasoning is maybe a little bit harder. But where the Facet isn't clear, I would say that somebody like Blessed John Duns Scotus, who used this in his arguing for the Immaculate Conception, firmly believed that Mary's Immaculate Conception was a reality, right? It was fecit. God did do it. So, which is why he argued so strongly for the application here. And in his argument, he's doing that logical reasoning between that, God could do it. Obviously, it's in the realm of possibilities that God could allow Mary to be conceived immaculately, and that he did do it. All right. So let's see what that would kind of look like. For the Immaculate Conception, to give you a visual of what I'm talking about with all of this, right? The Potuit, the realm of possibilities, God could do it. The fecit, therefore God did it, which is what Scotus, like I'm saying, firmly and strongly believed. So as he's reasoning, as he's arguing, he's contrasting and pulling back and forth between God could do it, he did do it. Therefore, with that perfect balance between the two of them, we could say it is fitting that he do it. So that's it. I hope you found this helpful. A little bit about what Catholics mean by fittingness. I know this is not an exhaustive use of this concept, but hopefully that's a little bit more helpful than maybe what you've run across with in the past. If you have any thoughts, please leave some comments. And if you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. Thank you.